CNN has learned the UK is no longer sharing intelligence with the U.S. about suspected drug trafficking in the Caribbean. Sources say the UK does not want to be complicit in U.S. military strikes on the vessels, believing the attacks, which have killed dozens in recent weeks, violate international law. Stefano Pozzebon is in Caracas. And Stefano, I wonder, do Venezuelan officials believe that the U.S. might very well invade the country? I mean, are they taking this buildup of forces that seriously?
Well, I was actually speaking with a source a couple of days ago, Jim, asking him exactly the same question. He's an analyst, a person that has some understanding of how the inner circle of Nicolas Maduro's government works and thinks. And he says that he thinks that they don't think that this is probable. However, they're definitely taking it seriously. They're not taking any chances, if you will, Jim. And I think that the mobilization of over 200,000 between soldiers and members of the militia to join these military drills to prepare the country for whatever might happen is a sign that Nicolas Maduro thinks that could definitely be a possibility. We at CNN have learned over the last few weeks and even days that the White House has not made a final decision, that the US President Donald Trump is still pondering, is still evaluating whether to move to a next step of that campaign, allegedly against drug traffickers, but that could also implicate direct strikes on Venezuelan soil. One thing that perhaps is often missing is the fact that, well, according to the White House, the leader of this country, Nicolas Maduro, is himself a drug trafficker. So when they say we're going to prosecute, we're going after people who traffic in cocaine, for example, they might well believe Maduro's personally. So that's why I think with the arrival of the Gerald Ford, just like you said, the largest aircraft carrier in the world that has just arrived in the area of competence, in the area of operation from the United States Southern Command to support that mission, that could be yet another sign that the United States are preparing some form of attack and are just preventing Venezuela to retaliate as a way of showing a disproportionate difference in forces. One of the big questions that is hanging over Caracas right now, as the streets, as you can see, are very calm as of tonight, is how prepared Venezuela actually can be. We know that in the years of Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez, when this country used to be one of the wealthiest in the region, Venezuela did purchase a lot of equipment from Russia and other countries to beef up and boost up its military defense. However, we don't know, after more than 10 years of dramatic economic crisis in this country, how affected and how effective those weapons might be. That is the main question. And then going back to that scoop by our colleague Natasha Bertrand up in London about this refusal from the United Kingdom to share intelligence with the US, we understand that other countries, including Canada and Australia, have also shared concern about what the use of that intelligence that is shared between these countries is and the legality of those strikes. So clearly a very tense situation, Jim. We know that it's been dragging on for a few months. It was August 15, I think, that we started seeing the first warships from Washington arriving down in the Caribbean Sea. But now we might actually get closer to another inflection point, Jim. So very tense moment here in Caracas, even though as of today, the situation here on the ground remains calm.
Stefano Pozzebon, thanks so much. Joining us now, U.S. Congressman Steve Cohen. He's a Democrat from Tennessee who sits on the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. Congressman, thanks so much for taking the time.
You're welcome, Jim. Happy Veterans Day.
You as well, and I see you. I see you there wearing your pin to commemorate the day. First, I just want to begin on Venezuela now, because for the U.S. to move its most advanced, largest aircraft carrier off the coast of Venezuela, carries its strike group with it, as you know. There's a destroyer in the region, a whole host of aerial assets as well. What exactly is the Trump administration preparing for here, and does that include ground operations inside Venezuela?
Well, I guess first I'd have to say that if I knew the answer, I probably couldn't tell you, because what we hear in Intelligence Committee, we cannot repeat. But I can tell you that Intelligence Committee has not met since we shut down, and we haven't been given any information. We have what we call read books that were given on all sections of the world and what's going on and what the intelligence agencies are involved in. And I read them regularly. And I was in Washington about 8 days ago and read them, and there was nothing in there. And I asked twice that week if there was anything about the boats and the sinking of the boats, and there'd been nothing. So there has been some information I've received that there might be some briefing papers tomorrow on the situation. But as to now, they've not informed the Intelligence Committee, to the best of my knowledge, anything whatsoever.
Given your long experience on the Intelligence Committee, and you meet with foreign partners as well in your job, how damaging is it for an ally, in this case, I think you could say one of America's closest allies, the UK, to say, we're not going to share intelligence with you because we believe you're using that intelligence to carry out illegal acts, these deadly strikes on what the administration calls narco-terrorists. What's the effect of that?
The effect is very, very bad because they won't be sharing with us, and we may not be sharing with them. And the Five Eyes, 5 countries that work together on intelligence, have always worked together, and there's never been issues. The only issues have arisen during the Trump administration, and there was one earlier where they considered not sharing information because of some of the things Trump had revealed. He revealed, I think during his first term he revealed some information with the Russians present in his office. Yep. That was classified information. He's done these 2 occasions, I think, publicly. And of course, he had a bunch of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago that he wasn't supposed to have. So he's not a president that has kept a firm hand on security papers and security information.
I just returned from Europe, and it strikes me that when you speak to European officials about the defense and intelligence relationship with the U.S., they'll say something in public, everything's fine, relationship's great, it's always been. In private, they'll express genuine concerns about it. And I wonder if you hear the same thing. And what is the actual state of the cooperative relationship with our defense and intelligence partners, given what I think we could call quite a public split here over U.S. operations in the Caribbean?
Well, there have been other splits, and they're not good. And Trump he's loose with his lips. And he's taking actions that are questionable. The main reason I think Britain is looking at retrenching their sharing of information with the United States is because they feel what we're doing is illegal, that should be a criminal activity where we arrest the people on the boats, give them due process, and allow them to have the opportunity to present witnesses. One of the things that I've learned is that whenever I go overseas and we ask people, what is the thing you most respect about the United States? What they always say is the rule of law. Of law. We no longer can really boast that we are the country with the best rule of law and giving people due process. We've not given a lot of immigrants who courts have ruled should have due process before they're sent off to El Salvador. We sent them to El Salvador. We've flown airplanes where we were ordered to return them by courts and continue to fly the airplanes to their destinations. And so our reputation has been sullied because of the actions as president. He's been known to tell untruths and not understand what he's getting involved in. And I certainly think that using our military to fire upon these boats, which what I've read is most of them that have been confirmed have been involved in drug movements, but the drugs are cocaine, not fentanyl. Fentanyl is the killer drug in America. Yeah. Even then, I don't think you should be killing the people, arresting them. And if you wanted to make a war against some drug dealer countries, it would be fentanyl cartels in Mexico or producers in China, not cocaine producers and traffickers in Colombia who are sending it through Venezuela. And what I understand, I read a story this past week, and that's where I'm getting information from the newspaper, I think it was the LA Times, that the drugs that were on those boats were headed for Trinidad and Tobago, and they were on their way to Europe. And the drugs weren't even intended for the United States.